Greetings. I'm Isaiah Ware, a second-year sociology major at Florida A&M University. Today I'll be discussing racial inequality within America, particularly between black and white Americans, and evaluating how it affects the way in which they live. To fully understand the issue of racism in America, you first have to look at the history. A few examples throughout history of racism were slavery, the Tulsa Race Massacre, the Jim Crow era, the Plessy versus Ferguson case, the George Zimmerman case, Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, the Bill of Rights' exclusion of blacks, poll taxes which deprived African Americans of voting ability, white medical professionals exploiting black women's bodies, and the marginalization of African American World War I and World War II soldiers. The images show what life was once like for African Americans, like how they had to drink from separate, dirtier water fountains than white Americans, or how they gathered to peacefully protest for equality while white Americans protested their protests. The graphs show that black Americans tend to feel more uneasy around police officers than white Americans, that they're incarcerated at greater rates, and have less opportunities to vote because of convictions. Racial inequality can also be found in the way in which society perceives black people. For example, society often perceives black people to be violent, criminals, or ghetto, especially in stores, schools, and in the justice system. In addition, many are shocked when black people display intelligence and or success. There are also common misconceptions made, like the fact that African American women are meant to do domestic work, that all black households are broken, or the portrayal of lazy African American females. Cultural appropriation and black crime being broadcasted more than white crime in the media is also an issue we're enduring. Here's a clear example of racism in societal perception. When you type in 3 white teenagers on Google, you get the images on the right. What you see is 3 white children smiling, partaking in physical activities. When you type in 3 black teenagers on Google, you get the mugshots shown on the left. This just goes to show what they think of black children. Racial inequality can also be found in the education system. For example, more and better educational opportunities are available to white students than black students. There's also a school-to-prison pipeline which compares the test grades of third-grade black students to the incarceration rate. Additionally, statistics show that blacks are more likely to drop out before receiving a high school diploma than whites, and that when all grades are combined, black students are nearly 3 times more likely to be held back than their white peers. As a student who attends an HBCU, I also found that funding of HBCUs are much lower than that of funding of PWIs. In addition, black men are significantly underrepresented as educators. Here you can find a comparison between the scores of white and black students when it comes to reading and math. What this graph shows is that white students tend to score better than black students for whatever reasons. You can also see the statement which says black students are punished more harshly and more frequently than white students for the same offenses, which shows inequality in the school system. And finally, a book written by Anthony Carnevale and Jeff Stroh, which evaluates the separate and unequal nature of the American educational system. As far as employment, African Americans receive the short end of the stick once again. For example, blacks with darker complexions have less education, less prestigious occupations, lower personal incomes, and lower family incomes than blacks with lighter complexions. Black applicants with no criminal record are also less likely to get a job than a white applicant who has just been released from prison, according to Devin Pager. Blacks have also received the lower salary for the same work as whites. Not to mention reduced rates of promotion despite similar performance evaluations. Experiments have also shown that at several jobs, many applicants' resumes are turned away if it appears that they have a black name. Here you can find some trends regarding black and white employment in America. For example, black Americans tend to be unemployed at a greater rate than white Americans. For those that are employed, African Americans tend to get paid at a lower rate than white Americans most times. While it may not be as blatant, there's definitely racism in the entertainment industry. For example, all 2016 Oscar nominees in acting and directing categories for the 88th Academy Awards were white. In addition, blacks are often portrayed as ghetto or hood in films, or that they need a white savior. Not to mention, white dolls are more accessible and appealing to young black girls because of societal influences. Addressing such issues, Colin Kaepernick said, "I'm not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color." Films like American Skin also address these issues as it exposes the stigma held by officers for African Americans and vice versa. Element Gert also found that by underinvesting in black-led projects, television and film production firms are missing out on $10 billion each year. Musical artists like Meek Mill, Lil Baby, and Ariana Grande show support for the Black Lives Matter movement through song lyrics. Entertainers like LeBron James and Michael B. Jordan also showed their support through peaceful protests. It goes without saying that racism in America is a monumental recurring issue. It makes the country one in which peace and equality will never truly be reached. It also hinders our youth, whether that be physically, mentally, and/or emotionally. In my opinion, racism may be minimized, however, in upcoming years as this newer generation is much more sensitive to such topics. For example, the introduction of cancel culture may prevent many celebrities from voicing their racist or prejudiced views in fear of losing fans and ultimately revenue. As far as blame, the system blame approach is best suited to address the problems at hand. This is due to the fact that essentially we all reinforce whatever ism benefits our particular classification. So white people can't help but be racist even unintentionally because of societal influences. As far as solutions, to be quite honest, racism is not just a societal system, it is a mindset. With that being said, there's no way to actually rid the country of racism, as that would require wiping the minds of a large percentage of the population. What we could do, though, is minimize the degree at which racial beliefs draw a wedge between the country's inhabitants. For example, identifying and terminating police officers who perform even the slightest of prejudicial behaviors. Supplying more public schools attended by minorities with quality education and resources will also help descale the issue. Here are some of the scholarly articles I use to support my findings. Thank you.